Hi, my name is Kate. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have a very exciting video for you guys. I'm going to be sharing my July reading wrap-up. I read 6 books in July. I know this is 5. I don't have one of them currently. And we're just gonna get into what I thought of them. And I have a nice ice-cold, caffeine-free Diet Coke, so let's get into it. Before I get started on the books, I wanted to make a little disclaimer. I really don't like talking badly about any book, regardless of whether I loved it or not, because I'm an author myself, and I know how much hard work and effort goes into writing a novel. It can take months to years to write a book, and it's kind of shitty that you can spend all that time pouring your soul into something and then people can just get online and pan it for whatever reason. But I know that's kind of the nature of things. There's always going to be critics. I want to say that I have the utmost respect for anyone who successfully writes at all. Writing is so difficult. So anything I say in this video, these are just my opinions. There's one book in particular in this that I really didn't like, but still respect. All right. Let's get into the books. I'm going to start off with the only book I don't have, and that is When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. I originally saw this book in Barnes & Noble in the new releases section. I think it was like maybe half a year ago to a year ago. The cover is absolutely stunning, as you can see. And I was intrigued from the beginning. I mean, with a title like that, give it to me now. Basically what this book is about is a phenomenon known as the mass dragoning. This is a period of time in the 50s and throughout history in which women randomly, spontaneously become dragons. And obviously wreaks havoc in a lot of families, companies, etc. I thought it was interesting that the story that we're reading about took place in the 50s. You know, the time of housewives and homemakers and staying at home. So clearly this was a feminist book, especially when you read the dedication, which is to Christine Blasey Ford, who was somebody who testified against, what's his name? I fucking hate him. Oh, hold on, my mom's calling me. I got distracted, but this dumbass, Brett Kavanaugh. So when I read the synopsis and I kind of was getting into it, I thought, oh, this is going to be about female rage. This is going to be a really badass story about women getting to be authentic to themselves and strong. But it kind of fell a little flat for me. It certainly had a lot to say about the dragoning itself and what it might mean for women, but I wasn't entirely sure what the book was trying to say, because on the one hand, these women would spontaneously dragon, and it's this amazing thing that happens, but then there would be dragons that are batting their long eyelashes and they have a purse. Like, why does the dragon have a purse? And I don't know if I'm gonna say this correctly, but something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was the message in this book in a roundabout way is something like, because these women mass dragoned, we were able to have peace and we were able to live in harmony with one another. It felt like the book was trying to say, well, we were only able to do that because the women changed into these dragons, so therefore we can't have peace without women becoming something else. This book also had a lot of magical realism kind of themes in it. I'm sort of finding out that I'm not really into magical realism. It has to be a very specific kind. And I think that might be part of the reason why I ended up giving this book a 3.2, 3.3 star on Goodreads. Combined with this book just kind of being a bit wishy-washy, a little cartoony, it wanting to have a message, but I couldn't really understand what the message was. It just kind of fell flat for me. Amazing concept. I mean, it got me to pick up the book, but I don't know, I wish it was different. Next we have Bag of Bones by Stephen King, and this was a long one. I probably would have read more books in the month of July if over half of these weren't like 600 pages long. Yeah, this is 529 pages. And I also listened to the unabridged version on Audible, so that it was even longer, I think. This was intriguing to me because it's about a writer who loses his wife in a horrific accident, and she kind of haunts him after that. And there's this lake house that they own called Sarah Laughs. The writer in this, whose name I'm forgetting, Mike Noonan, he goes to this cabin to sort of reconnect with his wife in a way. He is a best-selling author, so it kind of feels like Stephen King is writing a lot of this about his own experience being a worldwide phenomenon. So when I picked this up, I thought, oh, okay, cool. This is going to be a haunting story in this cabin, and ooh, spooky. Well, I think Stephen King, what he really enjoys writing about in addition to horror is slice of life. The majority of this book is about this custody battle between this young woman that he gets in a relationship with. She's like 20 and he's in his 40s or 50s. It's a little uncomfy. And her daughter. And I was kind of like, I don't really care about this part. I want to read about the haunted cabin and the dead wife coming back to reconnect with her husband. It went in a direction I really wasn't expecting. By the end, Stephen King did what he does best, and he dials the dial to 100 and everything comes together. And I was like, oh, okay, that's respectable. But it still was just kind of okay for me. He uses the N-word a bit in this, and that's a whole debate in and of itself. That made me uncomfortable. I don't like the way he writes women in this. This is the only book I've read so far in which I felt that way about his writing style when it comes to women. I don't know. There's plenty more of his books to read to find out more. This is the 5th Stephen King book I've read. And for me personally, I want to read his books because I want to be scared. And so far, out of all of the 5 books I've read of his, I haven't really been scared once. And I don't know why that is. I gave this a 3-star on Goodreads. It was pretty good. I mean, a lot of people think that this book doesn't get enough credit. So go check it out if you want. So I know we had 2 3-stars, but let's take it to a 5-star because this book, oh my God. I reread this because I remembered loving it so much when I originally read it back in 2016, I think. And I have memories of reading it back then. It was just a time in my life in which I was super busy doing a show during the day. I was exhausted by the time I came home. I would come in, take a hot shower with some lavender body wash, and then go into my room and read this. I don't remember what made me want to pick this up at the time, because reading through the little blurb about it, I don't think I would have picked this up with my current reading tastes, but I'm so glad that past me did pick this up because this is one of my top 3 favorite books of all time. There is no way for me to adequately explain to you what this book is about. So, oh, and I didn't even say, this is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. So I'm just gonna read you the blurb. Barcelona, 1945, a city slowly heals in the aftermath of the Spanish Civil War. An antiquarian book dealer takes his son Daniel to the secret cemetery of forgotten books, where he must select one forgotten book to preserve for life. Daniel's choice, a mysterious book entitled The Shadow of the Wind by Julian Carax, seems destined for him, but when he sets out to find the author's other works, he makes a shocking discovery. Someone has been systematically destroying every copy of every book Carax has written. In fact, Daniel may have the last of Carax's books in existence. Soon, Daniel's seemingly innocent quest opens a door into one of Barcelona's darkest secrets, an epic story of murder, madness, and doomed love. This one is also a longer one. It's 510 pages. This is actually, I didn't know, it's part of, I think it's a trilogy, and I will definitely be reading those at some point in the future. But this has pretty much everything I want in a book. One of the hallmarks of a 5-star read for me is when I can say that a book is so colorful, and I don't know exactly how to explain that. It's just a feeling that the book gives me. It's so rich and well written. The characters are fantastic. Firmin is my favorite out of all the characters. It's haunting, it's romantic, it's suspenseful. You have to read this book. Like, oh my god. And I love this copy too. It has the red everything. Yeah, Shadow of the Wind. Excellent. Next up, however, is a book that I hated, and that is The Last Werewolf by Glenn Duncan. I don't know if the year 2011 was just not a good year for books, but I have still to read a book from that year that I like. This is a shorter one. It is 353 pages. This had me so angry in so many different places because this writer just feels so arrogant in his writing style, in the main character, the way he's written, the way the women are written. This is about the last werewolf. Apparently there used to be a lot more of them and now there's only one left, and so he kind of wants to die actually. He's kind of over being alive, but then he meets this other lady, and then he falls in love, and then he wants to live again and all this stuff, and he's being hunted by people. There are also vampires. Obviously there's a rivalry there, as there always is. And this sat on my bookshelf for like 7 years, and I'm like, I wish that it hadn't been. I wish I'd read it when I got it, because you wasted space on my bookshelf. And only recently I've been trying to go through all of my TBR so that I can just have a bookshelf that is full of books that I love or that have changed my life in some way. I've only hung on to this so that, you know, maybe at the end of the year when I do a 2023 reading wrap up or monthly wrap ups, you know, but otherwise, like, I can't wait to donate this. This is also part of a trilogy, and interestingly, book 2 I think is the best reviewed, which is about the lady werewolf, and then there's a third one that I think is also better rated than this one. This is the lowest rated out of all of them, and I understand why. I have this thing that I've noticed about male writers. They cannot resist talking about breasts whenever they can at the most random, inopportune moments. It's like, why, bro? Why are you talking about breasts when she's trying to have a heart-to-heart conversation with you? I mean, I'm not even kidding. There's this scene in this book in which Tallulah's her name, is having a heart-to-heart conversation with Jake, the werewolf. And she's, you know, vulnerable and crying, and he just casually slips a finger in her butt. I understand that there can be awful characters and that we're supposed to dislike them and they can say awful things and whatever, but I think that sometimes you can feel when a character is saying something but it's like what the author thinks. That was the case in this book. So I'm gonna read you this lovely passage that was towards the end. I've always said women make the best agents. Deceit comes naturally to them. It's hardly surprising. If you were born with a little hole half the population could stick its dick into whenever it felt like, you'd learn deceit too. Biology is destiny. You can't blame the women. I'm sorry. What? The misogynistic tones in this are terrible. The arrogance of the main character is terrible. The things he does are terrible. He murders his wife because of course he does. Not Tallulah, somebody else. That's not a spoiler, it's very quick. He like enjoys it, and of course the woman is just like fine with it. She's just like, oh, it's you, because he's in his werewolf form. Of course the female werewolf isn't as ferocious or as outspoken as the male werewolf, of course, because she's a woman and she needs to feel ashamed about becoming this powerful creature. There was nothing about this book that I enjoyed. I gave it 1 star, and I don't ever give 1 stars. That's that. Whew, got a little heated about that one, but I loved it. Up next, for the month of July, I also read Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This one I finished not too long ago, so it's pretty fresh still in my mind. I talked about it in a reading vlog that I did, so You should go check that out. So I won't go into too much detail with this. This has been out a long time. Most people know about Jane Austen's work. It was good. It was very comforting. It had a nice feel to it, but I don't know if other Jane Austen's books are like this, but this one was a lot of telling, not showing. So characters would say, oh, he loves her, instead of having him show that he loves her by, I don't know, bringing her flowers or rescuing her from the rain, which is only in the movie, not in the book. Sense and Sensibility, if you don't know, is about the Dashwood sisters. They and their mother and their younger sister are very rich, and then their father dies. They don't get any of the inheritance, so because they're women and it's the 17 or 1800s, they have to leave their house, and so they go to a smaller cottage and they meet men to court, possibly marry. It's sort of about how Marianne is the fiery sister and Eleanor's the more calm and collected sister. And it's about relationship dynamics and how you can think somebody is great and good for you, but then they're a total asshole and they leave you and send you back your lock of hair. Like I said in the vlog, I preferred the movie, the 1995 version. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Emma Thompson clearly read the source material and made a brilliant adaptation. There's so many quotes that are in this that are also in the movie. There are some differences, but overall, I would like to read more of Jane Austen's work. Obviously, it's Jane Austen. I think I would want to read Persuasion next, because I also really like the movie with Ciarán Hinds and I forget the actress's name. Not the new one that was on Netflix. That one was awful. I also gave this 3 stars. This is a very 3-star video. And last but not least, I read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and this was also a book that sat on my shelf for 6 years. Unlike this book, I am so mad at myself that I didn't read this sooner, but for very different reasons, because I would have had so much enjoyment years ago. Also has the cool black edges. Nice hardcover. I don't know. It's a nice hardcover. I loved this. This is about a high stakes heist in which these 6, they're not really friends. They have this dynamic. They're all kind of fighting with each other, but we know that they secretly all really complement each other. The characters are so well thought out and fleshed out in this. Kaz is my favorite, in case you were wondering. But they have to go and break out this very important person in this world out of the ice palace. Is that what it's called? The ice court. Because there's this drug that is taking over, that could take over the world and change everything. So they have to get him out so that his knowledge doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And I love this also because every character has something unique. Every character is strong. There's great representation in it. And it was just a really good time. I couldn't put this down. I looked forward to picking this up every single time. This really brought me back to when I was in elementary school and part of middle school, in which I just had so much joy reading, especially series, because I kind of stopped reading series for some reason at some point. This is part of a duology. There's one more book after this, and I will be reading that too. It's called Crooked Kingdom. And I think what this also really showed me is that I should read more series, and I should read more YA, because I think I actually really enjoy YA. There was not a single dull moment in this. And this is 462 pages. I wasn't bored once in this. It was just like this constantly. I read some reviews that were like, people's hearts were actually pounding while reading this, and I was like, yeah, same. Because, you know, in a lot of books that are longer, there's a lot of buildup and extra information, and then it pays off by the end usually, or not. But this was like A+. Was never bored. And I gave this 4.8 stars. That's very specific, but yes. Those are all the books I read in July. Let me know down below what you are currently reading. If you have any recommendations for me, how's your day going? Just let me know. Anything you want down below. I'm having so much fun making book related content, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.